Okay, we're good?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. The IP Expo started in the UK. Why was the decision made to bring it to South Africa?
We decided to bring the show to South Africa after being approached by Montgomery's, our local partner. Montgomery's had been working with a brand called Computer Fair, which sadly closed, and it was felt that there was a gap in the market for an enterprise IT event, and Montgomery were looking around for a trusted brand that had been established overseas that had resonance within the enterprise market particularly, and to bring that brand into the South African market. IP Expo had been established in 2006 in the UK and has grown very strongly ever since, and it has got those strong credentials within enterprise IT. So it's felt that bringing it into the local market, particularly with the fact that there are a lot of decision makers within IT and the marketing that goes on within IT who know the show from the UK. There's a lot of EMEA personnel who sit in Europe and in the UK who have influence on the IT market in South Africa. So for us to introduce the event into this region, we have a bit of a head start with the fact that a lot of people we're talking to making decisions about the show are actually based in the UK. So that's one reason.
Yeah, so what's the purpose of the IP Expo? What can visitors take away from this?
IP Expo is really positioned as a 2-day consulting process. So we're creating a platform to bring technology vendors and enterprise end users together so that the enterprise end user can get a better understanding of the various technologies that are available on the market, firstly, and can then interact with the vendors one-on-one so that they can make a qualified decision on who they want to work with down the line.
Then I suppose it kind of ties into that, but how can an expo like this help the local IT industry? I suppose it's more for networking kind of. So how can that, I suppose if a business is not here, how can an expo like this help the IT industry, in general?
IP Expo, in the way that it's been set up, really creates that one-on-one interaction. So instead of just focusing on the exhibitor specifically, we focus on the visitor, providing the right type of content, ensuring that they've got that direct interaction in a business-like environment, because that then results in a solid ROI for the IT vendor that's on the show. So it's really creating the platform, let them start speaking to the enterprise end user, educate them about technologies that are coming down the line, and then interacting, creating a proper sales process through the actual show.
And I understand this is obviously the first year of the IP Expo. Will this be an annual event? And I suppose, will they take it to different regions in Africa?
Yes, IP Expo will be an annual event in South Africa. We are running again in the autumn of 2012. We are looking at the option to expand further into the African continent. We've had a lot of interest from sponsors for the South African show, people we've been meeting with here, around the idea of maybe launching this in Nigeria, in Lagos, and in Nairobi, perhaps in Kenya. We're finding that there's obviously a lot of growth across the continent. A lot of businesses, IT businesses, see South Africa as the gateway to the continent, and a lot of decision makers based here are very, very interested in the idea of taking this well-established brand, this IP Expo brand, further into the market, as I say, particularly in Nigeria and Kenya. So we're looking at those markets. We have, questions we're asking about the level of infrastructure, whether those markets are ready yet for a show of this kind. So we're researching, we're speaking to people on the ground there, and we'll make our decisions soon.
We have noticed, speaking to various vendors in South Africa, that there is a need for them to reach into that market. And I think the critical thing to remember is the next 2 to 3 years, you will see a major improvement in infrastructure in the rest of Africa through the landing of various cables. You will see an increase in bandwidth. And I think once that is in place, those markets will be ready to start talking about virtualization and cloud computing specifically as technologies.
And it kind of ties in with the previous question, but how long do you think it will take South Africa to catch up to like the UK and the US, because obviously South Africa is, like you said, the gateway. So if South Africa catches up, then the rest of Africa can catch up as well. How long will that process take?
Again, it's dependent on infrastructure and the improvement in the infrastructure that we have in South Africa. Now, we've already seen a massive improvement through the landing of various international cables in bandwidth and pricing of bandwidth in South Africa. The market is starting to move towards key technologies. Virtualization is a very, very hot topic right now, and we saw a similar trend a couple of years ago in the UK, and it's still growing in the UK market. So I don't know if we'll ever catch up, but we're definitely seeing the same progression in terms of the adoption of technologies in South Africa that we've seen in the UK.
And then back to this year's IP Expo, what kind of feedback have you received so far?
I must admit we've had a phenomenal response, both from exhibitors as well as visitors. A key draw card for IP Expo is the content, and the seminar sessions have been very well attended, and they've been almost a draw card back to the exhibition stands so that people can then interact one-on-one with the various vendors. So the feedback has been very, very positive, and it's really creating a platform that South Africa hasn't had in the last 10 years, where vendors can interact directly one-on-one with the enterprise end-user decision makers. So it's great for them.
And then, since it's an annual event, what is planned for next year, or is that too far to decide upon?
We're planning to expand the content program. We hope to add potentially another 3 seminar theatres to the program. We're very interested in looking at a track around security. As you get into topics like cloud computing and employees bringing their own devices into the workplace, what we call the consumerization of IT, security becomes more and more of a concern. You have mobile data, you're handing over data to third parties in cloud computing. That becomes very important. We're also looking at topics around unified communications, very hot subject in the UK. We're looking at topics around what we call the back end, the storage and data center side of infrastructure as well. All this great stuff you can do with your tablets, your iPhone, all these devices, depends on something happening at the back end in the data center. And there's a lot of growth in storage management technologies, storage virtualization, which feeds that environment. So these are the key growth areas for the show.
What are the highlights of this year's Expo? If somebody missed it, which is a shame, what are the highlights of this year's IP Expo?
I would say again the seminar content that we've provided. We did commission research with Worldwide Works, focusing on cloud computing in South Africa and the enterprise end user uptake of cloud computing, as well as what they're planning for the next 12 to 18 months. And that is something that we'll look at refreshing on an annual basis to really track how this technology is growing in the local market. We've also had the ex-head of Google Africa, Stafford Macy, on the stage in the Cloud Theatre, which obviously drew a phenomenal audience. He's a brilliant speaker and really took a futuristic view of how cloud technologies will impact us going into the future. And then a variety of our vendors have had phenomenal seminar sessions, really looking at key issues within the 3 streams that we're focusing on, which is IP networks, virtualization, and cloud computing. Then on the floor, we've got a variety of vendors, and it's really leaders in their respective fields that have interacted with our audience and really shared absolute nuggets of information with the people that have visited the show.